And then I'm also going to open the doors now. Opens the doors. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a couple more minutes to let everybody else come into the town hall. But I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping before we started. First of all, I wanted to let you know that we're doing this meeting in the Zoom meeting mode. So at the end, when we do our Q&A, we are welcoming you all to use your little reaction button at the bottom and do the thumbs up, and we'll do a Q&A that way. There's also the option to do the Q&A through the Q&A box also at the bottom. So you can type it in if that's your preferred method. And we will have a Fringe Arts staff member, Raina Searles, who will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A functions. So sometimes the answers to those questions will be found in that chat, and we'll try to address as many of them as possible in the Q&A section. I also wanted to let you know that this meeting is being recorded, and it will be sent out to all the registered artists afterwards. And yeah, we'll start in just a few moments. Unmute. Okay, great. So it looks like we are all here. I just ask that if you are here, if you just put your microphone on mute, that'll really be helpful. So no, there's no feedback happening. Just let you know. So I'm Katie McClellan. I am the director of production. I use she, her pronouns. And April Rose, unfortunately, can't be with us today, but she is in the chat. So she's aware of you're all here and so happy that you're all here together. And if you have any questions following this, she's always welcoming to your emails and your phone calls. So I'm Katie, and let me introduce you to the rest of the team.
Hi, I'm Claire Frisbee. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director here at Fringe Arts, and I use she, her pronouns. My colleague, Raina Searles, also in marketing, is monitoring the comments and chat.
Hi, I'm Katie Danvers. I'm one of the artistic producers here at Fringe Arts. My partner, Zach Blackwood, another artistic producer at Fringe, is unable to meet us today, but the two of us are excited to be in this conversation, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mary Menschel. I'm the Client Services Manager, and I use she, her pronouns.
Great, let's get started. So in this town hall, we'll go over the following items. We'll talk about the upcoming deadline on July 6th. We'll also talk about the Fringe Festival 2020 print piece updates, what that will look like and what that will entail. We'll also discuss IRL in real life performance guidelines, as well as permits for those IRL performances. We'll also go over our recommended digital platform. And then we will also discuss the updated independent artist scratch night format plus submission, as well as the updated box office policies and digital performance ticketing. And after we go over all that, we'll do an open forum for questions and answers.
Thanks. So the next big deadline coming up is Monday, July 6th, and that is when you'll submit a lot of information about your event to Eventatron. That information, those details include your show description for the print piece, show image, estimated runtime, content engagement time, your presentation category, whether your show is IRL, a live stream watch, etc. How ticketing will take place, whether it'll be ticketed, the price, RSVP, paywall, capacity, platform, location, performance dates and times, genre. Also, quick reminder that you cannot change the title of your show in Eventatron after July 6th. We won't know if that happens and we'll use the original title, so please confirm that that is correct. Also, if you have performance instances, so different show times versus content that's just available anytime, you need to make sure that you list those dates and times in the tab labeled Add Performances. Not all of this information that's listed here will be used in the print piece listing, but it's very important that we have this information at this time. So now, on to the print piece and some marketing updates in general. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this slide. Here's the slide of what it looks like in Eventatron, so that you're familiar with where you'll be entering that information. Now on to the marketing updates. So most of the marketing for this year's Fringe Festival will skew digital, but that being said, we are still creating a print piece. It's going to be much leaner than the guides from previous years. We're still in the process of finalizing exact dimensions for that print piece and the exact page count. But all of your shows will be included in this brochure. We're not including any advertising as in previous years, so the focus is very much on the shows that are taking place in the festival. We're planning on printing approximately 10,000 copies of this brochure, and we'll be mailing most of them around mid to late August. So we will be sharing a forum with both our audiences and with you to share with your networks, so to make sure that people can sign up to be sure to receive that guide in the mail. But then we'll also be designating specific pickup spots around the city so that those who don't receive the piece in the mail know where they can pick one up. And we're conceiving of this piece kind of more as an encyclopedia of shows rather than like a calendar listing. And the listings will be organized by audience experience rather than genre or neighborhood, as has been the case in the past. We will be pulling from the presentation category that you select in Eventatron, and that we have to see what is submitted to know the exact categories, but basically content that will be watched online, whether content that will be engaged with online, watched in real life, engaged with in real life, but basically helping guide audiences through how they're going to experience the content. And so these are, you're looking at the details that will be included in the print piece. We will be directing everybody from the print piece to our website for the most up-to-date information, just because we know a lot of things are subject to change these days, especially with everything being so uncertain. So what will be included will be the image, your show title, artist or company name, ticket price if you're charging, whether it is taking place in real life or will be a digital experience, whether it's time-based or available, if the content's available anytime, runtime, genre. You may notice that we're not including the dates, times, or locations in this print piece. And again, this is just because so much will be, we understand so much will be TBD for many artists. And so we'll be directing people to our website to get the full information, though they'll be able to read about all the shows in the brochure. Again, we're not going to include a direct URL to your content if you're doing something digital. Say, like, we won't be including a specific YouTube link or Vimeo link, but we will be including a link to the event page on the Fringe Arts website so people can get full information there. And as always, you'll be shown your print listing before it goes to print so that you can approve it or edit it in a timely manner. We'll probably be doing this through Eventatron rather than over email, which is something that we've done in the past, but we're still working those details out as it's the first year that we're using Eventatron. And one final thing, given our condensed timeline this year, we do ask that you get back to us as soon as possible within the requested timeframe to approve when approving that listing. That's all from me.
Hi, so I'm going to go over some IRL, that stands for in real life performance updates. We asked everybody as part of step 1 to dedicate, clear with us if they were seeking to do something IRL or if they were going to take it digital. So for many of you who are seeking to do an IRL performance, April Rose, our festival coordinator, has probably already been in touch with you. But just to give some updates to everyone as we move into this new world of performance creation, you can see on the right hand of your screen, which is a screenshot from Eventatron, all of you should have been sent already the outdoor performance and event guidelines that were released by the health department of the city of Philadelphia about a week ago. My colleague Raina will also put a link to that in the chat. Thanks, Raina. And it'll also be included in the video description of this recording if you're watching it later. Some clear takeaways from this document that I encourage everybody to read in full are that we are only allowing outdoor performances. So nothing that would happen inside in a theater space or an indoor restaurant, or even a space where you might need to go indoors to then ultimately end up outside. Say if you were trying to do a performance on a rooftop or an outdoor deck. Another thing to note is that we're not allowing any walk-up ticket sales. So all tickets or reservations will need to happen in advance. So no cash can be exchanged, and we need to have a clear sense of how many people will be there prior to their arrival. That being said, artists are still, of course, allowed to solicit Venmo or other virtual donations, doing a virtual pass the hat, but cash should not be handled on site. We really encourage everybody to read these clear guidelines. They also include kind of some basic details that I imagine are old hat for people now, like everyone needs to wear a mask, people need to be socially distanced and 6 feet apart, and that we, of course, ask people to come only if they feel well, and if they're not feeling well, to stay home. That being said, for IRL performances, you also need to ensure that you have a permit. And permits are going to be a little bit different this year. April Rose and some of our colleagues at Fringe have crafted this great document that Raina just put in the chat that goes over in a lot of clear detail what it means to apply for a permit now and what performances need to get permits. I'll quickly go over that you do need to get a permit if you're doing an outdoor show in a city park, and that'll be a special event permit. And there's some clear guidelines on the city's website and also in that document that'll kind of walk you through that process. Outdoor shows on city property other than city parks, you'll also need to submit an application. And note that anything that happens on city property does need to be free. You can't exchange tickets or ask for any money in that space. And there also can't be any alcohol on city property as well. Other outdoor shows that might require a street closure, you'll also have to get a festival street closure, or what's also known as a block party permit, if you're seeking to do something where you'd shut down a street for a period of time. Remember that permits are not required for ambulatory or kind of walking outdoor shows, something that might be a something that travels with, a single or a small audience. If you're seeking to do a parade, something that would travel for multiple city blocks, you do still need to get a permit. But if this is something that's on a much smaller scale, you're probably okay without. And of course, outdoor shows on private property don't require permits, but you do of course need permission from whoever owns that space. That being said, we do encourage everybody to always be aware of city ordinances regarding noise levels, light levels, etc., and just to generally be kind and aware of the community that you're working with. And that you still have to abide by those outdoor guidelines that I mentioned in the previous slide. Of course, in the uncertain times that we're in right now, COVID evolving guidelines on a city and state level may supersede activities that are ultimately allowed under a permit. So of course, continue to be updated around things as they continue to shift.
Thanks, Katie. So I'm going to talk to all of you that are going to be doing digital works. I'm sure that you're aware that there is a myriad of options out there. So we here at Fringe have created this document that Raina will also drop in the chat. And this document highlights all of the platforms that we recommend. On the left-hand side, you'll see the titles, and the anything that has an asterisk is something that's going to be compatible with our ticketing platform, Patron Manager. There will also be tutorials all the way on the right-hand side, and I encourage you all to start there if you have any questions, or reach out to that platform specifically for any technical help. Here at Fringe, we are also learning alongside of you about what best practices for some of those things are, and we're not by any means professionals at all of those platforms. Some a little bit more than others, but not all. So we encourage you to reach out to those specific platform people first. If you have any other questions following that, we're more than happy to help you out there. There's also on this, the document that you'll see when you click on it, there are options for accessibility. A lot of these platforms already have closed captioning options. Others have options where you can have a pop-up video if you'd like to hire somebody to do ASL interpretation. And there's lots of other resources and guidelines about the best practices for each of those. And again, we really encourage you to do your research on some of these. There might be a learning curve for some of them as well. We totally had to learn some of them. And we also want to just remind you that there is no gold standard at the moment. Everybody in theater right now across the country, we're all learning together about what this new world for theater looks like. So don't feel too pressured if you don't have all the answers just yet. We're all learning together.
Hi, so we have touched on a couple of these things already, but first I'd like to share that we're currently working with our ticketing platform, Patron Manager, on a new process for ticketing digital performances. For the moment, this is specifically geared towards time-based events. The platforms that are supported for this functionality are YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and Zoom. And as Katie mentioned, those are indicated on the sheet that was just dropped into the chat. Patron Manager is also actively developing a video on demand option, and we're gonna share more details about this as we learn more. We have also updated some of our box office and ticketing policies in light of digital performances. For shows that have a limited capacity, 100% of ticket sales will go through our point of sale in order to streamline the back end and avoid any confusion. For those with an unlimited capacity, you are welcome to share the content with whoever you like and admit whoever you like outside of the festival box office. Additionally, there will be no walk-up sales for IRL shows. When sales close 2 hours before showtime, artists will receive the final door list, as in previous years, with all ticket buyer information. Audiences will be prompted to contact the artist directly via email if they want to attend the show after ticket sales close. As a direct result of this, we will also not have artist rush cards this year. We have also altered our discount policy. All shows with ticket prices at $15 and below will not have to honor any membership, student, or other discount on this year's festival other than press comps that Fringe Arts will manage. Finally, I just wanted to note, as in previous slides, you are more than welcome to digitally pass the hat before, during, or after your performance. And if you have any other questions about ticketing, you're free to contact me.
So So one of the last things we wanted to talk about today are some virtual Scratch nights. So we often do a couple of Scratch nights, sometimes they're also called festival previews, that happen in the month of August, usually in our theatrical space at Fringe Arts or other spaces around Philly. These are exciting opportunities to share kind of a preview, usually 3 to 5 minutes of your work, and then solicit audience members and kind of get yourself ready for your show. Given health and safety guidelines this year, we will not be holding these indoors at our theater, but definitely still want to make them happen. Instead, we're going to hold them digitally. They will be on August 10th, 11th, and 24th. So those are 3 Mondays in the month of August. And they're going to be virtual preview shows. So we'll be soliciting what we're calling trailers, small clips or snippets of your work. Even if you're doing an IRL show, so this isn't just for digital pieces, we ask that everybody submits video material digitally. This can be sent directly to April Rose and will also be opened up on Eventatron on July 13th, and submissions will be due by the 20th. We ask that these are submitted as .wav files, but an M4P is also okay. April Rose will send out a clear email about this. And again, those things can be submitted on Eventatron after July 13th. April Rose will then select 3 community hosts, people who have been independent artists in the past, folks who are here and making work in Philadelphia, who will host live each evening. So they'll be present in our sound studio at Fringe Arts. We'll introduce the evening and then give some information about each of the clips before they're played to try to host and kind of give a full contextual evening. These clips will then also be included on our YouTube page and used in marketing throughout the festival. Participation in virtual Scratch nights is completely voluntary. So if you're not interested in doing this, if you're not seeking to make a preview, that's totally fine. But if this seems like an interesting opportunity for you to further market your work and share your art, please feel free to participate. We will try to get as many people in as we can, and we ask that trailers are short because of that, just 1 to 4 minutes. Ideally, everybody will be able to take part, but given the number of people who are registered as independent artists this year and the length of each of those nights, which is probably about 60 minutes each, April Rose and the host that she selects may need to make some final decisions. But everyone, regardless if they're included in one of the nights or not, will be featured on our YouTube page, and we can use these trailers in marketing more broadly.
Great, so that concludes our presentation, and now we'll open up the floor to the Q&A. And if there's been any questions in our chat, looks like not yet. So if you do have a question, please feel free to use the reaction button on the bottom of your screen. That's a thumbs up, and we'll get to your questions.
Katie, we got one question via email.
Oh, great.
So I'm happy to read that one. Maybe we'll start with that, and then people feel free to use the thumbs up and we'll call on you. So this was received via email in advance, and this artist wrote, will it be possible to change the digital platform after we list it when our information is due in step 2, which is due on Monday, July 6th? For example, this artist is thinking maybe they'll use Zoom, but if other programs expand their capacity in the next 2 months, is it possible to change the platform that they're using later on?
I can take that one. You can change your platform after the fact. Basically, we won't be including specific platforms in the print piece, at least. And we're considering platforms, sort of digital platforms like locations or venues, which we are not including at this time. We really do want to have as much information by July 6th as possible, just to have an understanding of where artists will be presenting work and that sort of thing. But you can change the platform afterwards. We just ask that you let us know as soon as possible and be in touch with April around that. And if you're including, but understand that if you're including your platform in your show description, then that would be listed there.
Great, thank you, Claire. The next question we actually have in the chat is from Raymond, and he says, I have completed all steps except number 3. It stipulates I must send Fringe Arts my digital link NLT, no later than July 13th. Therefore, I must have my company completely rehearsed and recorded by July 13th, question mark.
I can answer a little bit of this. I know that some platforms do allow you to pre-schedule a link that you will be using. So in that case, you can pre-schedule a link, or we also have the ability to put in a placeholder link until you're able to complete the rehearsal and the final recorded piece. But as with everything, the sooner the better that we can get this all in, the better for our staff and team to get this all up on the website.
Great, thank you. Next question comes from Courtney. She says, what is the general thoughts when it comes to charging for virtual performances? Do we know what most theaters and people are doing?
So I can speak to how we're approaching it with the shows that we're presenting. There's really, I think, as others have mentioned, this is a whole new world and people are still trying things out. There's no gold standard. But for virtual performances, we are charging tickets for events that are time-based or require or involve specific engagement where where the audience will be engaging with the artist, or there's a limited capacity. We've also seen though that events that offer a sliding scale or ask for donations, that don't charge but then ask for donations, tend to see a larger audience.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. Next question comes from Michael. He says, hi, may we change the image we upload on Monday, and until what date? We're running a bit late on getting the image finalized.
We really would love to get that image by Monday. Please, there's obviously a little bit of wiggle room there, but please send an email about that. We are working on a very condensed timeline for print materials, so we do ask that you submit that by Monday. For the website, however, there's a little more time on that, and so we can swap that out to whatever you're working on, but would really love to have it by Monday.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. Next question comes from Brian, who has a few questions. First is, where's the content link part on Eventatron? I have a different Zoom link for each showtime.
I'm not the Eventatron expert here, but my understanding is each showtime is a different performance, so I believe you would enter those separately with each performance.
Yeah, I can hop on for 1 second here. So there should only be one link to your content, particularly if it is via Zoom. Zoom, you can schedule reoccurring events. So if you are, for some reason, have like multiple Zoom links for the same show, you can condense that into one and schedule reoccurring events, kind of like how there's one link to my Tuesday office hours. Just kind of try to condense those into one thing. But if for some reason those need to be different, you can please send me and Mary an email so we can figure out how to ticket those.
Thank you, April. Our next question, also from Brian, says, how many shows are registered for this year's festival? I think that's in flux right now, and I know we have at least 100 plus at the moment. That's a combination of digital and in our IRL performances. And Brian's next question is, looking on Eventatron, is it possible to set my show price as pay what you can if I choose under ticketing methods, tickets limited, as opposed to virtual of IRL pass the hat?
Yeah, the one thing we have done pay what you can in the past for certain shows. The one thing I will flag is that we don't have the ability to have like a blank space where you can just type in, or the patron can type in the amount that they want to pay. We have to have preset ticket prices that, you know, maybe 5, 10, 15 that they can choose from. And that is also something that you may want to reach out to me for, just so that we make sure that we're on the same page. But it's definitely been done in the past.
Yeah, and sort of what you're describing here, Brian, is the difference between if you want audiences to pay for the show before it happens and have that be the sort of like entry point, or if you think you're kind of like yes, you know, a charismatic person that could do a good little curtain speech and encourage people to give donations. So it's really just up to you and what you want that audience experience to be.
Great. Next question comes from Lauren. She says, hi, I submitted an IRL show proposal, but haven't heard from Fringe yet. When can I get some information on whether that's been confirmed? I think April has been really busy lately. She was out of the office today, so I'm sure she'll get back to you by Monday for sure. I'm so sorry for that lateness. You know, things are a little wild right now, but we'll make sure that that information gets to you soon. Next question comes from Raymond again, and he says, my company is based in Texas. Can Fringe Arts snail mail some copies of the Fringe Arts print guide to me?
Absolutely, Raymond. And so exciting that we have people participating from Texas. But yes, we can do that.
And what's the best way for him to send you his information, Claire?
I would let April Rose know, let her know, we'll just flag that. Also, when we are sending out this like form for people to fill in that they would like to receive one, we'll have a section for notes, so you could put that there.
Great, thank you. Next question comes from Robert. He says, are IRL events held outside of city limits going to be held to county guidelines or to city guidelines? Would this be taken into consideration when determining if an IRL event will be pulled from the show?
That's a great question. I can speak to that a little bit, but I definitely encourage you to be in touch directly with April Rose because she's working very bespoke with each of our IRL artists. But I imagine we would want everyone to conform to the city guidelines. I think they're very well written and like consider the health crisis as it is at this moment. And I think they're a good kind of gold standard to start with.
Yeah. Next question comes from Rachel. She asked, are there typical prices you recommend for performances?
Great question. We don't have exact set prices because again, it depends so much on what your show and experience entail. I will say that we are setting the prices for the shows we're presenting lower than normal or than shows in the past, given the economic situation, but again, depending on what the experience might be, we're generally going with like $5 to $10, maybe 15 in some cases, but again, it totally is up to you. If you'd like to chat more about what exactly your show entails, we are here to do that with you.
Next question comes from Chelsea. She says, hi, I have a couple of questions. How do you recommend selling tickets outside of the box office platform? Would we ask via Venmo? Is it possible to offer any promotional codes such as industry discounts or comps? Also, do you recommend that we still sell ads this year? And if so, would those ads be shown? Thank you.
I can speak a little bit to the first part of that question. If you have an unlimited capacity, you are welcome to use, people have used different ticketing solutions, brown paper tickets or something similar to sell tickets outside of it. But if you are soliciting donations, we're suggesting PayPal or Venmo. And just a reminder to, I guess, watch the capacity and be in communication if you are doing so. And then in terms of promotional codes, discount codes, so if you are charging a price for your show, we are always happy to put together a discount code for you to send out to your colleagues. And that's just something that would come through April to me, and then I would set that up for you.
And with regard to ads, we are not selling ads in our print piece this year, which is something we generally do in the past. But we do offer advertising in our app, and we probably will, we're in the works, but we'll also have some advertising options on our website if that's of interest. Again, this is totally up to you and what your budget looks like. We also will be running a digital marketing campaign, and we will be including all of the shows at some point through this campaign, both online and on social media.
Great. Looks like there are no more questions in the chat. Oh, Brian, he has a question. He says, in trying to determine my show dates and times, we self-produced artists have access to the dates and times of Fringe Arts curated shows, ? Would prefer not to self-schedule for conflicting show times if possible.
Yeah, sure, I can answer this. We are not going to be releasing that information in advance, primarily because we are still figuring it out, just like you all are. We're definitely in this new world where things are evolving very quickly. And I think one of the joys of a festival, whether it's our Fringe or another one, is that there's always a plethora of performances. So we will have, a good number of curated shows, but then as Katie McClellan mentioned, over 100 independent artists are also registered. So I would say inevitably shows will conflict. And I think that's the joy of the festival, that people have so many options to choose from.
Thank you. Our next question is from Lauren. She says, can you share approximately how many IRL shows are currently registered?
Yeah, I don't have that exact number in front of me because I know April is still in conversation with many people, and as things evolve, it continues to shift. Oh, but April just put in the chat, it's 32 right now. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you, April. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, oh, Dylan, he says, if you have a digital show with unlimited capacity, you can use whatever ticketing platform you want, ?
You'll still be required to sell tickets through Fringe Arts, so we're not taking that portion away from it. But if there is unlimited capacity, you do have the option to sell a portion of those tickets outside of Fringe Arts. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk about ticketing like outside of like a big group forum.
Thanks, Mary. Next question comes from Amber. They say, this is my first year at Fringe, so sorry if this is another question. Totally fine. We're here to help you. But could you please go over how independent artists can make money through the festival? How much of our ticket sales will we see?
So I can speak to this. Independent artists keep 90% of their ticket sales from what they sell. And otherwise, I mean, you would make money by selling tickets basically, and or doing that digital pass the hat, which is definitely something we also recommend. But we do retain 10% of the sales for setting up the tickets and whatnot.
I did also just want to mention that we will still have a festival box office available to be answering questions, selling tickets online, and helping folks through that purchase process. So that is there and available for you once we start selling tickets. We'll still be taking on that function.
Great. Next question comes from Jameson, and they ask, if your performance is pre-recorded, is it possible to run the show as a series of single night showings, or do you suggest making it available for anyone to view at any time? And I can answer this one. That is really up to you. I have seen people do, like, if they want to do a single night showing several times in a row, they'll make it a viewing party. That's one way to kind of interact with your audience. Or you can just set the link out there and your audience can come to it at whenever their convenience is. I think that really is a personal preference.
I will say, Jameson, yes, this was Jameson. Regarding this question, this is kind of indicates how you will be featured on our website as well, since our website is taking on kind of like a TV guide type of experience for audiences. If your shows and your performances are time-based, they'll show up as within like a calendar view of their timing. If they are available anytime, we will, obviously advertise them and push them, but they won't show up at a specific time slot.
Great. Thank you, April, for that additional information. Next question comes from Raymond again, and he asks, after Fringe is finished, I assume I retain all the rights to our show, question mark. The answer is yes. Fringe Arts does not own any of that. Any other questions before we conclude?
I saw that we got one question in the chat about Mary's email, and we can just put that in the chat for people to have and reach out to her.
Yeah. Great, and that comes up to our next great point. If you have any questions that you need a little bit more attention to, April does have office hours every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to noon on Zoom. And sometimes other additional Fringe Art staff will join her during that time. And this coming Tuesday, Mary Menschel and Tanara Callum will join April Rose to discuss accessibility for the digital and IRL shows. So if you'd like to be a part of that and sign up for a slot, please email april@fringearts.com. And then also, April has started a 2020 Fringe Festival Artist Private Group, and we encourage you all to join that to continue to discuss solutions in your arts and any other creative thoughts you have for the festival this year. How to join? I'm sorry, Michael asked how to join. Joining on Facebook. It's a Facebook group.
Yeah, the email that went out to everybody had the Facebook group link in it at the very bottom, and I can share that again with you if you ask. It's literally just 2020 Fringe Festival Artist Private Group in Facebook. So if you just look for that, you can find it and request to join, and I'll let you in.
Great.
Sorry, can I ask a question over the microphone?
Of course.
Yeah, this is Meghan Mezrich. I was wondering if for my in real life performance, which sort of straddles the permits, the two permit options, either needs a permit or not needs a permit. And my question was, my show will be happening inside of a gallery and the audience will view outside of the gallery looking through the windows. But if people start to gather, do I need to put signage out about spacing? How to deal with that is my question in terms of permits.
Katie
Did that make
Dammers?
sense?
Yeah, totally made sense. Is Katie Dammers still on the call?
I'm here. I'm sorry. My computer just freaked out. Can you please repeat the question?
She was asking about, she has a show where the performers are inside, but the audience is outside. What kind of signage and or permits might she have to get for that?
Oh, great question. And like inventive use of separation. So that's cool. Let's see. In terms of safety and IRL, that feels okay to me, although April Rose will ultimately sign off on that. I think it's important to think about, even though your audience is outside, we would need to ensure that the audience is also, of course, distanced between themselves. And when we think about the artists that are inside, we also want to be careful about the number of artists who are in there, particularly now that Philly is kind of in this modified green phase right now, you know, where indoor dining has been paused, you know, we're also not opening gyms and things like that. We are being really careful about what, if any, activities are happening indoors. So April Rose can, you know, firmly sign off on that for you. In terms of permits, I think you were probably going to need to look at potentially two options. The first would be the permit to use whatever building your team is inside of. If that's a private space that you have access to, you wouldn't need a permit. But if that was some kind of public space, whether it be like a school or a city-owned building, then you would need a permit. And then for the outdoor space outside, again, it depends on the capacity of the audience and how you're spacing them with social distancing in mind. But if, for example, you were inside some kind of city building and then the people outside were then in a city park, you would need a permit to cover the audience use of that city park space. But if, for example, you were doing a show inside your private residence and then you had people outside just standing on the sidewalk and you had a limited capacity of 2 to 4 people, that would probably be okay. So I hope that narrows it down for you a little bit, but I would encourage you to reach out to April Rose directly, and she can walk you through those specific details.
Thank you, Katie.
I would also consider having a lot of signage available. I kind of know a little more about your performance, that it's sort of in like a gallery window type of experience. I would say having signage there to indicate social distancing guidelines would be really helpful, as well as possibly having someone as like a stage manager that could sort of inform passerbys of safety if there's like clumping or something like that. But since your experience is a little bit more like a living kind of installation, like a shop window, I don't imagine that you would need a performance permit, but I would just, you know, try to keep signage and information and someone there to kind of police that.
Thank you.
Great. So thank you all for joining us today. We really are so happy that you came and were curious about what was happening and had lots of really great questions. Again, if you have more questions along the way, contact April, and I'm sure all of us will eventually also be talking to you if you have any more specific questions about our various departments. But thank you again, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we're really excited about this year's Fringe Festival. Bye.